Okay. Shelley, it's so nice to have you today on Vitality, Women Leading Audaciously. As you can
Hi,
see, Shelley's a
excited.
boss.
I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And you're an accomplished woman, and you have a lot of things that are just really interesting that I know I can't wait to dive into. But before we do, I want to learn a little bit more about your journey, and really how it came to be that you are where you are. And I know that's a huge question, but just tell us what you're present to in this moment.
Yeah, so I'll try to do it really short and concise. I actually been working since I was 11 years old and didn't, of course, appreciate it at the time. My parents had an auction house, restaurant, flea market, and on the weekends I would go work there. And I definitely, as a youngster, did not want to be doing that, but I learned so much information that I didn't realize at the time, and of course, I appreciate now. Fast forward into the teenage years, I started working inside of Marriott, a really large, obviously, company, a lot of structure. Stayed in the hotel years for a couple of decades, and then realized it was never about the people. I'm sorry, it was never about the brick and the mortar, which I thought it was because I'd gone into ownership as well. But it was more so about the people. It had always been about the people. I actually had, when I decided I didn't want to get up and make the donut, so to speak, I had a conversation with a franchise broker, and she asked me a lot of questions that led me into purchasing a franchise. That was executive coaching and peer board kind of groups once a month. And I bought that, and a year later, I realized the franchise side wasn't for me. It controlled me too much, quite frankly, and I didn't feel like I could expand as much as I wanted to. I sold that, and I have what I have today. So I've had this for about 14 years now. And so the coaching is part of the element. What drew me out of the corporate business is my father telling me for years, never worked for anybody else, number one. And I finally decided to listen to him. And then number two was that it wasn't about the brick and the mortar. It was about the people sphere. And in order to do that, I was able to shift out of, at that point, a fixed mindset that I had around brick and mortar and corporate, and then into what I get to do today. Everything workplace culture related, the human element, the coaching element, the leadership development, the growth mindset. And so that's a quick short story of how I got here, and we can dive into why I left corporate if you want to as well. But that's kind of frames it for you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what an interesting early childhood you had, or adolescence and teenage years. I can imagine how that did shape you.
It did. Like I said, I didn't appreciate the discipline then and the exposure to a family owned business, but
Mhm.
wow, do I appreciate it now.
I know. I think I was also raised by two entrepreneurs, and I think we think differently,
Yeah.
actually. I didn't realize it, but it was just literally the air we breathed. It was, at breakfast, at dinner. Sometimes, one parent wasn't there because they had to, do X, Y, and Z. But it's a really different mentality than all of my friends whose parents worked, 9 to 5 jobs,
Yes.
and had more regularity. And I kind of envied them, but
Yeah.
now, just like you, I really value that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it sounds like you do a lot of work around retention, also like employee
Yes.
retention in large companies.
Hmm.
So critical. And when you say culture, what exactly creates the culture? And I know the answer to this question, but I'm really curious about your perspective on it. What is it
Sure.
that creates that cohesion, the webbing?
Well, first of all, anytime there's more than two people working together, a culture begins to formulate, whether you call it out or not, and realize it and you're intentional is quite another thing. So, inside of that piece, what cultivates it is the two people, and then the masses and the masses and the masses. What happens is when we go into a relationship, we start off usually on the same page, right? Well, what can happen after a day-to-day interaction, we can just start to, sort of disseminating away. And before you know it, we've had this complete, un, complete, not necessarily spoken, that we're on two different pages. When you have a culture, deliberate culture, you stay on the same path. So when somebody starts to go, you're like, no, 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 that's not how we do things around here. It's not what we think, say, do. all of our action around, if it's collaboration, if it's innovation, if it's respect, if it's, so whatever those core values end up being, the more you describe what right looks like and what it doesn't, then we know when we're starting to, like go off. That's what causes either retention or turnover inside of that scope.
That's so nuanced and so clear. I love it. And that core value is also the talent, because you have like a talent enhancer. I'm not using the right word, but what do you call it?
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with our behavioral hardwiring. So if we don't have an understanding of what motivates us to our core, then we don't know that of the other person. So the self-awareness, the individual into the work styles, without that, you don't have and you cannot create talent optimization. So the behavioral hardwiring understanding allows you to achieve the results that you're looking through and for, because it starts with people. And we forget that they're not employees first a lot. They're people first. And we have to connect on the human element now more than ever. It's always been important, but if anything, the last 12 to 18 months has shown us human element and the ability to connect remotely, virtually, in person, across the world. It's critical. And AI is not going to do that for you. It takes people. It takes people to unpack it. So
it takes this right here.
Yes.
And even though you're talking about the workplace, this is also relevant for day-to-day life. It's whether it's your sister or your husband or even your child, because we think that what motivates them is what motivates us. And it's actually not the case frequently.
Correct.
And all that assumption creates a lot of distortion in relationships, period.
Absolutely. Since I've been doing this a lot at home and teaching virtually, my husband has heard training speak that he has never heard before. And so I'll come out of the office and he'll say, don't use that stuff on me. And I always laugh. Or he'll say, wait, I think I heard you tell somebody else that. And it's just so funny. So to the psyche, and I definitely have used the assessments on my kids over the years. It's helped them with their careers, with their relationships. And so, this stuff works across the board too.
I love it. I love it. And you've helped, gosh, how long have you been doing this? Decades, you said?
Decades. I'm too old to tell, but I'm in my 4th decade of doing this. So I love it. I tell people it started off as a passion, and then I realized it wasn't a passion. It's an absolute obsession. Every commercial I see, every interaction I have that lens on from a culture standpoint, and whether you're motivating or not motivating people. So it's a bit of a sickness I have.
Well, it's a talent, right? I'm the same way. I call it geeking out. I've been geeking out on this health stuff forever, and I try to kind of divert myself because I think, well, maybe I should think about something else. And it's like I tried to listen to a novel the other day, and I just I gave it like 15 minutes, beautiful alliterations. It was incredible. And I enjoyed it, but I was like, I actually would really rather learn something about, plants.
Yeah. Totally get it. I can't read a novel. Mine has to be something in the self-help of I have to get something more out of it that I can apply.
Yeah. And this behavioral piece and the methodologies around transformation and behavioral change is just, that's the only thing I think about. It's the only thing I care about. And everywhere I go, it's all I look for. So I'm right there with you in that. But I'm not 4 decades yet. I still have a ways to go. And what that tells me is that you really know what works and what doesn't work.
I mean, I'm quite sure in all transparency, I come across things I think are going to work that don't at times. But I'm pretty comfortable with the process. You have to start off with a diagnostic always, regardless of where you're entering. You have to diagnose where you are.
Yep.
And then there are the obvious, steps along the way.
Absolutely. So you're married, it sounds like.
I am married.
How old are the kids?
25, 24, and 17.
Oh my goodness, you're almost an empty nester. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I have a 17-year-old too.
Yeah. It definitely happens fast, right?
Yeah, this last from 12 until now, it's just like a blur. And I can't imagine what it's like to have 3. So, but I've one, and it's just amazing. It's the most amazing experience. And that word isn't even adequate.
Agree. 1000% agree. It's life changing in so many ways, so many good ways and ways that are not expected. So yeah. Yeah.
And so you're a mom and a wife and an entrepreneur and successful. So how do you juggle it all?
It's definitely a trick. And I think it's trick for all of us, right? I laugh when people say work-life balance. I say you can have it, but don't get confused that one has to literally be balanced with the other. Your balance is your personal balance. So I definitely have gone through the waves. I've always been perceived self-diagnosed workaholics. I love working and doing. I don't think I won't go so far that I'm not going to say it's me, but
Yeah.
I like doing it. So therefore it doesn't, feel like work, but balance. I've gone through the shifts of, those success factors of getting up and journaling, just to get my mind, set for the day over a cup of coffee, quiet time. So when people get up earlier than me, then I have to keep getting up earlier, but that works. So the morning routine helps me get balanced. Definitely getting in the workout, or if it is reading a book or whatever, I've learned that I have to fuel my time, but I fuel my time in between everybody else's needs. So I get up to serve myself and to get that groove on. And then I go into the family mode, the work mode, and then I stop throughout the time in the day. And I'm very diligent in my calendar of blocking and color coding red times, family time. So I've learned that I have to block it and cherish it. I'm not going to cancel on a client, so I'm certainly not going to cancel on my family. So putting those boundaries around when I'm working, when I'm not working, and clear with the family on when they have stuff that they need assistance with or that we're going to do together, that I'm just boundary driven, and kind of know what those spaces of time that I can go sneak and get back on my computer, or when I'm planning, the long road trip and having to have everything settled at the house in order to reduce the mom guilt. I'm not going to say ever get rid of it, but reduce the mom guilt. It
Yeah.
definitely, I don't think that ever goes away. I don't know about you, but that doesn't ever go away.
It never goes away ever. And so sometimes I even have it and it's completely unnecessary because she's like, go,
Yes,
let's go.
they want a break from us.
I know. She's like, please, like, I'm
Yeah,
so
when are,
annoyed by
when
you.
are you going to London again? Didn't you? Aren't you?
I love your honesty about serving everyone else's needs and serving your own, what it sounds like somewhat non-negotiably, but it's fluid.
Yeah,
Because a lot of women tend to find these boundaries that you're describing like very limiting, and they actually rebel against them.
yeah,
And then they get themselves into chaos and overwhelm. And it's a sabotage cycle. And I know I'm using that language with you. And for those of you listening, that's like such a coach jargon word, and everyone can understand what it is, but we all get in it.
yeah.
And so, do you feel confined by those boundaries, or for you, is that kind of freedom, or how would you describe it?
No, that is it. I love that question so much. I definitely, I don't think I've ever sabotaged my business, but I certainly have sabotaged my health. And so you tell me if this resonates with you, with everybody that you work with. Early years, I've always struggled with me first. I do still to a certain point, but from a health of being extremely large, close to 300 pounds, and having these huge cycles of losing 100 pounds and then gaining back 50 pounds. And now I'm back down. Um, this year I've lost another, whatever, 70 pounds. So having that struggle.
Wow.
So when you say sabotage, it's usually colleagues that I talk to, it's usually they're sabotaging their business.
Right.
For me, it was the business and the family first, and I would eat right and exercise and do what I needed to, like later. I didn't have time to do that. A couple of things have happened over the years that have shifted me, always from a personal standpoint, that shifted that priority, that no, I have to take care of myself in order to take care of others. To do that,
Yeah.
and so at the beginning of this year, again, I had another huge shift, and I was like, nope, there is no excuse to not working out. There is no excuse to eating poorly. I am the excuse. Nobody's getting my way. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here because this is your expertise. Once you make the mind shift, just like if you're going to grow your business or not, take care of yourself or not, all of a sudden, when it's really a priority, you find the time. And so the sabotage was realizing all of the excuses that you've been able to do everything in your life except for take care of your health.
Yeah.
When are you going to do that? And so it's not up to anybody else, it's up to me. And so it was legit.
Yeah. No, even though I know what you're saying and I preach what you're saying, it's important for our listeners to hear it. It's really, really important. We can't hear it enough because until it gets done, it's not done. But I think there's an ingredient called readiness. And
Oh, yes.
all of those years you were experimenting. Like I know for myself, even sometimes maybe I can get away with it. Maybe I can go to bed at 11 and wake up at 5 and I'll be fine, you know? And it's like, until I do that enough and I wake up kind of groggy and my energy throughout the day is sacrificed, I'm going to keep doing it. Right. You know, until I'm ready to be like, no, I'm going to go to bed at 9:30 because I actually function really well. And so I don't have to 8 hours of sleep. I'm just
Exactly.
using that as an example because readiness is a key and not everyone's ready for everything now at the same time, you know?
Right.
So that's why for me, it's always about food and fitness and mindset, right?
Yeah.
One without the other will only get you so far. And listen, each of those pieces are good in their own right. But when you combine them, it's like total magic. But that's an extraordinary weight loss, story you have.
Well, it's definitely taken a lot of hard work. There's no doubt about that. But it really is the mind shift. Because to your point, well, that's what it was. In January, I was ready. It's 100%. And the first time I did it, I was ready. But now I'm in a different place. That was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then shifting again intentionally. It's the other onion layer that comes on to us. I think as we get, I'll say older with grace in our life experiences. But it's certainly things I wish I would have figured out 30 years ago and instead of, now. But
maybe you weren't ready, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
So just so you know, my mom, so I was in Weight Watchers at age 5. We were in and out. My mom was in and out of Overeaters Anonymous my entire childhood.
Wow.
She died early, 59, with severe obesity as a cause of death.
Oh no.
And so I really get it. I get it so intimately and so deeply. And that's part of the reason why I think I do what I do. Because you can be healthy and it can be really fun and it can create tons of freedom and it can taste great. So I'm all for that because I wanted to sustain. I get so frustrated when, and I'm sure you do too, when you've worked with a culture and you see it failing. And it's like, that's probably why you've got your system down. So you've authored a lot of articles and even published a lot. So can you tell us a little bit about your accomplishments? Can you just toot your own horn for a sec?
Definitely not something I'm comfortable with.
I know, that's why
I'll give it a try.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see. I've written 7 books, hardback, and then I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen ebooks that are part of my online. So I've got the on-demand, flow going, and then for people who want to, do it at their own pace. And then I've got all of the hand-guided piece as well. So yeah, I mean, I probably one of my, since being in business, accomplishments was the being Entrepreneur of the Year here locally with the EO Forum. And so that was kind of cool to be the only woman in a man's world, quite frankly, here locally for that. But I've got certifications. I guess that's it. I guess that's all I'll brag about.
All right. Well, thank you for getting out of your comfort zone there for a sec.
It's embarrassing. I feel my face getting red and everything. I was looking down. It's just so funny the things when you start to analyze yourself of, why are you such a twerp and why can't you talk about yourself?
I hear it. This is really about you to shine a light on you and also to gain some wisdom, because I think a lot of people in this last year and a half are really starting to question what they do and if it's what's for them. And this talent optimizer sounds like it's something that might be helpful for somebody who's looking to make a shift in their career and are trying to figure out actually, and I could be wrong, I'm just guessing. Is that something that?
Yeah, it helps people with a career shift because if you're in a job that doesn't go to your own hard wiring. So for example, if there's a lot of change and you loathe change, well, I love change, if I was in a job where I had to do the same thing day in, day out, I would be scratching my eyes out, right?
Mhm.
So having a conversation with somebody who can help you figure out where your comfort zone is, then you understand how to apply, and you have the aha moments, to your point. So yes, it can help you with that as well.
Yeah. And really your core values. Like I've tried to pivot many times away from this health thing, and where I just focused on the coaching. And
Mm-hmm.
I too had a franchise kind of thing. It wasn't actually a franchise, but coach training. And it's like, if it's only intellectual, like I realize it's just not serving the secrets that I know work.
Yeah.
And so it has to be aligned with your core values. And I think it helps to have somebody like yourself to really, tweeze that out, because it can be, it's a process, as you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so, so your work-life balance is about boundaries. I love that. And I just want to emphasize what she said, because she has to have her me time. You didn't call it that, but you carve out time for yourself. And
Yes.
that is the secret to success, folks.
Yes.
Non-negotiable.
Yes.
Because like I negotiated it, you negotiated it. If you're an entrepreneur and you're a wife and you're a mom, it tends to lead to burnout. It tends to lead to absentee parenting or divorce. And we don't want that for anyone.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
So is there one thing you do that really recharges you that you'd like to share with us?
For me, it's going on walks.
Oh,
My
yeah.
me time is walks. And it has to be outside. I've got all the equipment in the house, and I've done the gyms.
Yeah.
I have to just go on a walk, go on a
Mhm.
hike, someplace outside. It's amazing for me, the release. The release is just immense. Everything comes peeling off, and all the ideas come flowing in when I'm walking. So whether I'm angry, happy, sad, just need to get up and move, it's a walk all day long. And I don't care if it's raining, if it's freezing, if it's 110, I gotta do that. And when I don't do it, wow, do I feel it? Wow, do I feel it?
I'm the same way.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like to feel the smallness, and it takes me outside of myself. I mean, you're in Virginia, right?
Yes.
I love Virginia. I'm from Virginia.
Oh, where are you from in Virginia?
I grew up in Northern Virginia. I know
Okay.
that's not really Virginia, but
Wait, Nova is still Virginia. It's all good.
I know. So, yeah, Nova, the Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. It's all good. There is a difference between the north and the south of
There
Virginia,
sure
for
is.
sure.
I know. I know. Dad was in DC, mom was in Nova, and so I grew up in that metropolitan area of Washington DC. And this time of year is really one of the main things I miss, because it's just so spectacular.
It is.
Did you know there is actually research behind what you're describing in
No.
terms of like what happens to you energetically when you go out in nature?
Mm-mm.
You actually discharge. So it's really interesting. This is great. Yeah. You discharge because we're taking in a lot of, electromagnetic energy, and it's still fringe science, but there's some science that's somewhat concrete around it.
Totally. Well, I didn't know that, but I totally believe it. That release, that wet discharge, that's absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like everything comes yuckingly off of you.
Ions. It's really about negative and positive ions.
How fascinating.
Yeah. And I love to feel my smallness. I actually moved to where I am in Fairfax, California, so that I could the hiking trails around here. That's one of the reasons. So I want to walk out my door and hit a great trail pretty much in any direction.
Right. Right. It is funny that you move from one Fairfax to the other, though.
Yeah.
I have to, point that out. That's kind of interesting. That's like wild. Like you couldn't have made that happen, right?
I really came from my sister. She lives down the street. I love her to death. I love her so much, and my niece. And she did the research and said the same brothers. It's like these two brothers way back when. One lived in Virginia and one lived in California. That's why they're both called Fairfax, Lord Fairfax, according to
well, everything's derived from something in England. So yeah.
So funny. So where can people find out more information about you and what you do if they want to work with you and learn more about your services?
Absolutely. The easiest thing is just go to my website, and it's premierrapport.com. So that's PREMIER and then RAPPORT. You can get the different services that I do. If you love podcasts which obviously you do because you're listening to this one now. I've got a couple of podcasts. One of them is, I have one that is more of my favorite than the other. It's just a 5-minute giddy up on workplace culture that I do Monday through Friday called Your Morning Commute. But anyways, you can grab free resources and white papers on that website, or you can follow me on social media.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Any last words of wisdom you'd like to leave with our listeners?
All of you need to work with Jennifer. If you don't have your wellness and your groove on, it's balance and yourself and your wellness before anything else. Everything else just comes in place when you have that. Yeah. And so I appreciate the work that you do, and I hope others check you out and find their zing too.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right, take care. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
So I'm just going to stop the recording here.